The last item under my business items is number 6.6, special town meeting, Article 6 discussion, all community walking track and turf field. Mr. Hipp and I put this on the agenda prior to the town meeting, not knowing what the outcome of that town meeting would be, and thought that regardless of the outcome, the school committee would want some time to start to discuss this if it passed, or to move forward if it didn't pass in another direction. So I will tell you that I met with Mr. Gillis at length today and other members of my staff, trying to put the next steps in order, and we are getting ready to develop an RFP to take that next step. And at this point in time, I will tell you that I will keep the committee apprised of each step of the way, and I'm sure that the committee may want to be involved in certain parts of this.
Absolutely. I just, I'll just kind of start this. As you say, we put this on 2 weeks before the meeting, just not knowing what the outcome was going to be. As you recall, the school committee, like the 3 other boards in town, voted to endorse this project to move forward with it. We hoped it would pass. I'm not sure anybody could have predicted exactly what happened at town meeting. Probably not exactly what everyone had hoped for, but I'm pleased that it passed. I hoped it would have passed though on the first vote. But I think at this point, the most important thing for everyone to remember is that we are a community, and we are really all in this together. And there's a significant portion of this town. The town meeting was incredible in many respects. One is that there were 470 people that actually voted on the Article 6. There were probably more. That was the very last article of the meeting, so there were probably more than 500 people at that meeting. I had never seen so many people at a town meeting. So the involvement from the town was great. It was certainly very. I don't even know what word I want to say. It was good in that people were active and involved, although it's obviously still a small percentage of the number of voting people in town. But I just want to say we're all in this together. This is obviously tied to a potential debt exclusion vote in, not scheduled, but most likely in May, which will, the track and turf field is merely one part of a small part of this entire project. I think what this really, especially under the circumstances, it's important for all of the leaders in town, be it the school board, be it the Board of Selectmen, the advisory board, most particularly the members of the Capital Outlay Committee, which I am our representative on that, to build a thorough program of projects that would be funded through a debt exclusion, which will benefit the entire community, as this one will. But I think it really behooves the leadership of this town to really work double time to make sure that we have a program in place well in advance of town meeting and this vote on the debt exclusion, and really make our case to the town about how vitally important this and those other projects. I can tell you my #1 priority is paving roads. And there's a multitude of things that we need to do, and I understand there's a lot of people that are very happy that this passed. There's also a lot of people very upset by it, but I think it's really on the leadership of this town to get all of our ducks in a row and make our case to the town, and the outcome of that vote on the debt exclusion will be what it will be, the product of that, whether we do have everything in order or not. And so I know there's a lot of hard feelings at the moment, but as I say, we are all in this together, and I think it behooves us all to work to continue to advance this community. And that's what my goal is, and that's what I will be doing over the next 6 or 7 months in advance of that. I'm sure other members of the committee feel the same way and likely have comments they'd like to make as well.
Well, we starting this way, that way? Or-
However you want.
Well, I'll just give my kind of 2 cents, and I'm going to kind of speak from the heart on this particular item. You know, I've been involved with town politics for like 20 years. I've lived in the town probably like 50 years. And I was kind of disappointed, I have to tell you. It was kind of discouraging to go to that meeting and basically, I mean, whether you're for the turf or you're against the turf, I mean, to be honest with you, I left. It was so late. I had to go to work. I have to leave my house at like 6:30 in the morning. So I basically left the meeting, but based on some of the other votes and the way people were talking and stuff, I really thought the thing was going to pass, to be quite honest with you, without having a reconsidered vote. But I was kind of disappointed because I really think, you know, I've seen a lot of different things go on in the town over the years, whether it was on the Board of Selectmen, whether it was on the Planning Board, all kinds of different kind of political things. But to see that vote to be reconsidered when a majority of those folks had left the building, and it was a long night. I mean, it was 12 o'clock at night or whatever when they started reconsidering that. I really think, you know, to be honest with you, it's going to be tough to pass that debt exclusion. And it's going to affect us all because, you know, I think there's a lot of things on that particular list. There's the seawalls, there's the roads, there's the guardrails. Those are all important items. And unfortunately, I think there's a lot of people, and believe me, I read Facebook. I don't have a Facebook page, but I read Facebook. So I just tell everybody I read it. I take notes on it. I listen to what people are saying. I know there's a couple of people that are on there a lot more than other people, but there's some other folks on there, and they had a lot of good points. And I think what we've done here by doing that vote, and I know that people are going to be mad at me, but you know, whether I get reelected or not reelected, I really don't care. I really think that you've really put a wedge into this town, and I think there's people that are really pissed off. And I think that was the wrong thing to do. I think there was some other ways we could have handled that. I think we could have either put the meeting off to Monday or Wednesday this week or whatever it was. We could have also kicked the can down the road to the May election or the May town meeting. You could have put the warrant article back on in May. It wasn't a zoning article, so you don't have to wait to 2 years. So I just think there was a lot of different things that we could have done as a community, but I agree 100% with what Eric said. And it was actually something, speaking of Facebook, one of the parents who's very involved with the schools, Michelle Proud, I actually read one of her posts on Facebook, and kind of paraphrasing, but we really do. I know that people are upset. I know that people are not happy about this. Some people are. But I think as a community, I think over time, hopefully, we can all come back. Because the thing is, we got to work as a town. Because if we don't work together and we're all fighting each other, nothing's going to happen. We're going to have lousy roads for the next 2 years, 3 years. We're going to have lousy sidewalks. So I just implore everybody. I know it's kind of, some of the wounds are a little bit, you know, they're out there right now. But I think, you know, over the next 6 months, we got to work on working together and kind of heal those wounds. I don't know if there's something that the town can do to kind of bring all the factions together and just kind of get people on the same page again, because unfortunately, the other thing is I just don't want it to be taken out on the school department because, again, I stressed this 2 weeks ago. I don't want there to be anybody out there thinking that the school committee was pushing for this synthetic turf. I mean, I think it's going to certainly help the schools. And in fact, I don't think anybody's necessarily against the synthetic turf. I just think it's the way it was done that people are upset. I mean, I think you'd have to be crazy. I mean, all you have to do is go out to that turf, the football field or the stadium or whatever, and then see what's going on out there. But I really think it's important that we try to get together as a community. Again, I know that the wounds are pretty much out there, but I do think we have to get together, and we really got to work together to kind of move beyond this. And hopefully that happens over the next few months. That's it.
It doesn't matter.
Go ahead.
I have obviously a different feeling about the disappointment. I think that in all of my years of attending town meeting, that's exactly how controversial votes go. There's always a motion to reconsider, and it played out, you know, differently than I think a lot of people in that room or the people that had left would have liked. But I think that it was democracy in action. I think many of the people that stayed have jobs also that had to get up and leave early, or had children that may have been home with an older child watching them. So I certainly recognize there was a ton of disappointment from the people that left. I see the social media too, and the comments are not pleasant, and I understand that. But I think the key to all of this, in my opinion, is going to be, as Eric said, the leadership of the town, and I think it's going to be the capital outlays committee to clearly identify, I think Mr. Kenny had outlaid that in year 1, this is what would be done, in year 2, all the way through year 5, and then I think the intent is to kind of outline 6 through 10, and then 10 through 15. And in my opinion, certainly, I don't know what they would have done, but I think that this has always been on that committee's project list, and this would have been an item that would have been bonded. And you would want to bond a large item at the beginning of any project so that you can spread the costs out over the 15 years. So I think if it were allowed to go through the normal process, this probably would have been on year 1. That's just my opinion. And I think that a group of citizens saw an opportunity to bring forward a field and a walking track to the community a little ahead of the process, and I hope that the entire town doesn't pay the penalty for that, because I do think there are a lot of projects on that list that will be very beneficial. The Hampton Circle Playground, the Gun Rock Playground, sidewalks, paving, and all of that stuff. So I'm happy to be part of a leadership team in this town that moves this forward. I hope the school committee will take an active role in promoting that and trying to get that, because I think that I think it's a wonderful thing. The other thing I want to say is a lot of the comments from sort of the naysayers was that we should stop doing anything in this town until the building study's done. And I could not disagree with that more. I think we've got 2 separate things going on at this point. I think we've got this debt exclusion, which Mr. Lemnios has talked about and the Board of Selectmen have talked about things that we can improve and get better really quickly. And then I think that running parallel to that should be the building study. I think we've sort of talked about it, that we're on board with it. It needs to move forward, but I think when we get to the end of that road, there's going to be another big chunk of change that needs to be expended, not anywhere close to what we currently have that we're looking to debt exclude, which I think is between 10 and 14 million. I have a feeling that's going to be about 20 to 25 million when you talk about, what to do with the fire station, what to do with the police station. So I think to get hung up on we're not doing anything until the buildings are done is really not healthy for the town, because I think, in my opinion, it's 2 separate tracks that we're kind of going down. So I was thrilled with the way everybody came to town meeting, though. It was a nice turnout.
Okay. I want to say I think it was wonderful seeing so many people there at town meeting. I know for me, I hope that many people show up when we have regular town meeting. For me, I can only speak for myself. I never thought that this was a question of merit, that the field does not need to be addressed. Anyone can look out there and see that, yeah, it's sad. It's been like that since I played on it for many years, and I was here 7th through 12th grade. There's never a question of that. My concern is how fast this truck is rolling, and I'm a proverbial nightmare, so I probably will mess those all up. Anyhow, I have concerns, and this is moving forward, but I want to make sure that we put the brakes on and we really think about health concerns. And I know that this has been a back and forth, that there's not enough literature. And while I was sitting in town meeting, I thought to myself, this kind of reminds me of the Lorax, especially the movie one, because I like the soundtrack, the biggering and biggering and biggering. Because if you are a person who makes tires, you pay a lot of fees to dispose of those tires, and there's a lot of money that you lose. Someone sat around and they thought to themselves, if I crumble this up, I do 2 things. One, I remove that problem that I have with the federal government to remove these carcinogen, toxin-filled, things right now, and I can then sell them to other people, and then they can deal with it in the life of 8 to 13 years. So I thought that was pretty great. I wish I was that person, not, who thought of that, but I want us to think about that as we're kind of bonding something for, I don't know how many years we're bonding, say 15 years. If the life of this is only 10, it's kind of like someone comes to you and they say, hey, it would be really smart if you rolled your car payments into your mortgage, because then you only have one payment and it's tax deductible. And at first that sounds really good. And so you're like, yeah, but when you really look at the numbers, you see that that is not the case, that you are going to be paying for those vehicles well after the life of them, and we need to really think about that. So as we put forth this RFP, I'm asking that we really think about, one, like Newburyport that was put up on that slideshow when they were talking about the turf, they only passed it using environmentally friendly turf, and they looked through, and I really would like to get their information and look at kind of their process and how they found the EnviroFill, I think they decided to use, which is sand. and why they chose that versus the tire crumble. You know, I know we have an, 1.98 million for this, but as the people who are kind of, in the end, we're gonna probably own this, like, even though I hear David saying, we're, we're not the drivers of this, but we're gonna be the owners of this. And that's how I'm looking at it. I think about maintenance. I emailed Matt. I asked him for the last 5 years for the turf maintenance. I think it came to like 40, around, I'll even up it a little, 45,000. All right, I think it was lower than that, and that included water. So we're taking the turf, and even if we amortize it over 10 years, right, and we pay $2 million, that's $200,000. That's $200,000 when we were putting 5 or, let's say 8. When we said 8, that was an estimate that they gave in the slideshow. $8,000. I'm just saying it's not apples to apples. The grass turf, and it is grass turf, not just grass turf versus synthetic turf. I just think we need to be smart about this, because it could be that in 15 years, we're paying to remove this to go back to turf, and then we spent this money that we're still paying for. So I just want us to be mindful as we move forward. I think in the end, we're gonna have a field that's great. I just wanna make sure we get there together with everyone's voices being heard.
I agree. There's not only in terms of the entire debt exclusion a lot of work that needs to be done, but there is also a lot of work that needs to be done just on this one item. That's one of the benefits of having it passed and the way it's worked out is that there's now a significant amount of time to do all of the design, planning, preparation, the RFP, all of that, to get all the real detail in place before the vote on the debt exclusion. And it certainly behooves this body with the, not even assistants, the bulk of the work will clearly be done by the superintendent and Mr. Gillis. With our input as well into, there's a whole host. I mean, the tire crumble is absolutely one of many forms of the infill. There's sand, there's cork, there's ground up sneaker soles, there's all sorts of things.
Options.
Yeah, there's all kinds of issues. These are options that will certainly be developed through the design and will be tested through the RFP. Proposals will come to us and we'll select the most appropriate one. So I should reiterate, yes, there's a tremendous amount of work that we all need to do, and that's what we're going to do.
And also too, I was thinking, there was this great product, and I was talking with, I think Jim Kavanagh about this, and it was called asbestos, and it started out in like 1800, and there was if you look at the timeline for asbestos and how long it took them to kind of come forward and admit that there was products. I mean, even I think it was early 1900s, people couldn't even get insurance anymore because there was known toxins in that. So, and it wasn't until even later than the 1970s before it actually was passed. And then, so I mean, there's research out there and it's debatable, but the question is that we know that there's a known carcinogen in tires. We know that. Now the question is, does it make people sick? I know that as someone who sits on this board and who cares greatly about children like all of you do, I don't want to be wrong about this in 15 years. I don't want to look back and say, you know what, you can say that that person got sick because of X, Y, or Z, but I want to take this variable out, that this could be a possibility. And I just feel strongly about that piece. I don't want to look back and have regrets that we, moved too quickly or we took the lesser expensive route because we could get more for that money. I want us to just be mindful about that.
I agree that we will be very mindful of not only that issue, but a multitude of them for the.
Can I make one other comment?
Please.
Out of this whole thing, hopefully the Board of Selectmen establishes a committee, or maybe even they can do this. I'm not quite sure what the process is, but they really do need to look at the whole town meeting, possibly move the meetings to Saturdays. I know some towns have them on Saturdays. I know there's some people in the community that probably won't want it on a Saturday, but that should be something that they look at. But the other thing they should look at is maybe putting a curfew on the meeting, stop it at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, or whatever it is, and continue it to the next day. But, I mean, I think if anything positive comes out of that meeting, hopefully they change the format of the meeting.
I'm not sure anyone in town would be against a curfew on that meeting. I did not enjoy being there as late as I was, that's for sure.
Yeah. That's it.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you.